Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving deep into the often confusing, mixed signals of relationship dynamics. Look, if you've ever felt completely lost trying to decode someone's behavior, trust me, you are not alone. Today, we're exploring a fascinating analysis from our source material that actually uses Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytic theories to decode these hidden human behaviors. We're going to unpack these concepts step by step so you can find your grounding and finally understand the psychological undercurrents at play in your relationships.
So, here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the deep mind through Freud's view. Second, the three mind layers. Third, the power of repressed desires. Fourth, we'll cover 7 rules of mental defense. And finally, number 5, oneness with your mission.
All right, let's jump right into section 1, Deep Mind, Freud's View. Have you ever wondered why someone's words and actions just simply don't align? It's the kind of situation that leaves you completely baffled, right? Maybe even questioning your own sanity. The source material poses this really profound question. Why might an individual explicitly ask for a healthy, stable dynamic, but then continually gravitate toward the exact opposite? Well, we're unpacking the theory that this isn't just accidental. It's actually a fundamental psychological conflict. It's a massive clash between what we think we want and what our deep mind literally craves.
You see, Freud discovered this strange, almost paradoxical conflict in the human mind. The source highlights that while the outside often presents this peaceful, totally rational facade, the inside is hiding a raging storm of hidden thoughts and primal hungers. It's basically an illusion of control. What you see on the surface is rarely the full story of what's driving a person's choices. The peace? That's just what we project to society. But that storm? That's what we're constantly battling in our own private thoughts.
Moving on to section 2, the 3 mind layers.
According to psychoanalysis, the mind is structured in 3 distinct steps or layers. Step 1 is the ego. Think of this as the sensible mask. It's the voice that tells the world, hey, I am a rational, good person. Then, step 2 is the superego. This represents the chains of societal rules, parental expectations, and frankly, shame. But underneath all of that polite civilization lies step 3, the id, the completely untamed primal core.
Let's zoom in on that deepest layer for a second. The source defines the id as the absolute birthplace of wild desires. It basically acts like an impulsive toddler that wants everything right now, completely devoid of logic, fear, or morality. The analysis points out that the id is where dark attractions, unexplainable fantasies, and the raw urge for power or submission actually live. It completely ignores what the ego and superego think is proper. It simply wants what it wants, and it does not care about the consequences.
Which brings us to section 3, Power of Repressed Desires.
Bridging this theory over to reality, the source material, which analyzes female psychology through this Freudian lens, notes something fascinating. Repressing what one truly wants doesn't destroy the desire. No, actually, that repression makes it stronger. It turns into this endless, unfulfilled hunger that eventually projects onto others. This perfectly explains why people might suddenly return to toxic situations. Their subconscious mind reawakens that old repressed pull. The conscious mind is screaming no, but the repressed desire screams yes, creating immense inner turmoil.
Okay, let's get into section 4, 7 rules of mental defense.
These 7 deep rules act as your psychological weapons. The source argues that by mastering these, you stop being a pawn in confusing relational games and you start understanding the dynamic from the outside looking in. We're going to walk through each of these rules step by step so you can see exactly how they apply to your life. Think of this as your comprehensive survival guide for navigating complex emotional landscapes.
Rule 1 is absolutely critical. Never judge by words alone. The text points out that someone might tell you that you mean the world to them, but then their actions show total indifference. Consistency in action is the only true measure of someone's commitment. If the actions don't match the words, believe the actions every single time. Words are super easy to fabricate, right? But actions? Actions require genuine intent.
Now, rules 2 and 3 really emphasize the danger of relying on others for your inner peace. Beware the validation trap. Some people will keep you around simply because you validate them, and once they have what they need, they're gone. Plus, you must never become a slave to your own emotions. If your stability depends entirely on someone else's presence or mood, you literally lose your own power. Your peace has got to be internal, built on a foundation that absolutely no one else can shake.
Rule 4 is a pretty stark warning. We must compare attraction to destruction.
The source warns us not to chase every single attraction. Just because a vibe feels really good or a face shines brightly does not mean it won't burn you. Attraction is just a signal, and as the text wisely notes, not every signal means you should walk down that path. Sometimes what glitters is just fire, ready to totally consume your stability.
Rule 5 takes us right back to psychology, requiring you to befriend your shadow. The source defines the shadow as your own inner darkness, those parts of you filled with raw desires and the need for validation or dominance. The analysis argues that you shouldn't fight this part of yourself. You actually have to understand it, because a person who understands their own darkness is truly powerful, and more importantly, they can't be easily manipulated by others. When you know your own vulnerabilities, no one can use them against you.
Moving right along to Rule 6, this one is all about protecting your time and your soul. You have got to set boundaries. The source stresses that if someone treats respect or affection as a transaction, saying things like, "If you do this, then I will love you," you must learn to boldly say no. Love is never a contract. You should never feel guilt for refusing to play a game that compromises your self-respect.
And that brings us to Section 5, Oneness with Your Mission.
We have reached the ultimate level of self-mastery here. Rule 7 is your ultimate shield. Marry your mission. The source asserts that true power comes from choosing your life's purpose over constantly seeking outside attention or validation from relationships. When your focus is on building yourself and achieving your goals, you become truly unshakable. You become complete all on your own, which, ironically, makes you vastly more secure in any dynamic you do choose to enter. As we wrap up today's explainer, I really want to leave this provocative question burning in your mind. Are you in your own power, or are you just seeking validation? Use this as a mirror to reflect on your own actions in every relationship moving forward. Because when you understand the deep, hidden layers of the mind, both yours and theirs, you don't just survive the game, you master it. Thanks so much for joining me, and keep questioning what lies beneath the surface.